Somebody will crawl out of the woodworks. You got cookies? Well, I got plenty of Macs. You can play with mine. Fuck it, your cookies are real good. I've got painted Macs. Sammy made them. They painted them. They're gorgeous. Let's get on the tables. Bring your cookies.
You're listening to the Funkatronic Rex podcast, where a few self-proclaimed piratical nerds running a friendly local game store discuss the board, card, and tabletop gaming community they love and serve. We tend to be the goofy, gregarious, and non-grindy gaming geeks of the community. Welcome. All right, we're back at the Funkatronic Rex Games and More podcast. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Episode 14. My name is Court. I am one of your co-hosts here, and I have the greatest job in the world. So thank you for being here. To my right, who do we got?
Hi, I'm Mike.
A.K.A. Lord Vader, still.
I am your resident baseball analyst.
Oh, yes.
That's for today. We're in playoffs, baby.
Dude,
we're getting close. 6 games left.
Season's good.
6 games left. Playoff race. Here we go.
You got the full jersey.
It's game
Here
day.
we go, baby.
Game day.
Looking
we need
good.
the juju.
Yeah. And throwing it to my left, he's back.
Michael.
Michael's back. Yeah. Dude,
I sell you things.
Yes, there
Didn't
it
forget.
is.
All right, didn't forget.
Yes. Just dive a little bit more into that, because your role here at Funk has changed a little bit, and you've kind of been doing a lot more. Yeah, you've shifted a little bit.
Yes. Less hours in store, more hours elsewhere, getting, website running, running all the technological things. But don't worry, I still sell you things when I'm here.
That's right. Yeah. Great to see you, man. Yeah. Glad
Good
you're
to
here.
be back.
And we have our guest of honor today. We have a great friend in the house. Give him the big welcome to Garrett. Let's go.
Hello. It's a pleasure to be here.
Glad you're here, Garrett.
Thanks
Thank
for joining.
Yeah, well, I'm Garrett, as established. You've probably seen me in the shop at this point playing Warhammer. I'm also in for Star Wars Unlimited a lot of the time. Marvel Crisis Protocol, when that happens, I'm there for that. Yeah, I'm a miniature game guy, so you'll probably find me playing about all of them at some point. So,
Do you have a favorite?
So fluff and mechanics are very different for me. I actually don't care that much about fluff if the game is perfect.
Yep.
And so I actually think that the best miniature war game I've ever played is Marvel Crisis Protocol.
Really?
I think it's the best rule set for having fun every time you play a game, I'm not like a big superhero guy, but it's just like it works. It's so, every time I play it, it's been like 6 months since the last time I played it, and I sit down and it's fun within 5 minutes, as opposed to fun after about an hour of trying to remember what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good sell right there.
That is.
Honestly, I that was one of those games I don't really want to get too hands-on with this, because there's a lot of, the release schedule for that game was bananas. And I was at a financial point in my life where I can't jump into another game system. But I love Marvel, and I saw Paul playing, and I have a couple friends that play. That is the best sell I've heard of this game.
Pick up and play. It's highly customizable, and this is kind of on topic, because what you said is that the release schedule is crazy, which is true. I mean, they're putting stuff out for that game all the time.
Yeah.
But what's nice about it is it does have this kind of buffet energy, as opposed to this is your whole meal.
Okay.
You have to pick up every box. Not at all.
You just a la carte what you like.
Yeah, just pick up the things that appeal to you, and very low point of entry, I would say. One of the best starter boxes for a mini war game, and you pick that up, and then you grab I don't know. I saw the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and I was like, that's tight. And I picked up all the Guardians, and that was 3 boxes, and I was done.
Yeah. I split, actually, I think, the core set with Tyler, and we tried it, because I'm not a big superhero guy either. I really just don't care. I played one game, and it was really fun. And we probably didn't get it right the whole time. But then when I saw, like, oh, you can be Blade?
Right.
Like, hell yeah, I'm getting Blade. So I bought Blade. I bought Gambit, Rogue, and Venom. And I painted Rogue as Death from Sandman. So she's, like, gothed out. And I painted, Moon Knight. I painted Moon Knight as Spawn. To look like Spawn. So I'll throw some pictures up. But it was fun. It's just, I think the release rate really pushed me off. I was like, there is so much here. And is there a very distinct meta for that game?
So that's part of the reason that I really like it, is that the general competitive vibe is that no, not really. Like,
anything goes.
Stuff that works is really general. Like it kind of is all very good. The game is swingy enough. Like there are some characters that are so distinctly worse than others that it's kind of like, well, all right, well, but kind of everything has its place, which is nice. I mean, like it's got that very simplified point system thing going for it, which really helps out because, like, if you're playing Toad from X-Men, he sucks, but he costs 2, and 2 is dirt cheap. Like, nothing costs 2, and so you're going to slot a Toad in because he costs 2, and he's basically free. So, like, that's the vibe, right? Is people play pretty much anything, and one of the competitive formats that's more popular is, like, I think it's, if I'm wrong about this, I apologize, but I think it's called, like, the 2-box challenge is the format, and so you have access to all of the characters from the starter box. And then the only other stuff that you can bring for your roster can only come from 2 other boxes.
Oh, nice.
And that's it. And so, like, it really lowers that competitive ceiling in terms of, like, oh, do I have to buy, like, this $1,000 army just to be competitive? No, not at all, because you buy the starter box and you buy 2 other boxes, and that's your competitive roster.
Michael, were you playing this at all?
Because you played this, right?
Yeah, for a while I had most of the box releases.
Oh, wow.
The biggest thing was when it first started, you kind of had to get all the boxes because like there'd be a box, this is this mission, but it's only in this box. So if you want to play this mission, because it's a 20 point, it's 20 points to build a roster, it's 18 and the mission's really good.
So not even the model that you were chasing, it was literally just
the cards. Yeah, it was the cards.
That's an old FFG tactic. But that game's Atomic Mass, right?
Yeah. So it started like that. I know right around the time I stopped playing it actively, they were releasing, it seemed like it was once a year, it might be more, but they would release, here's like the 2024 organized play kit. I don't know what they called it, but it would give you, if they updated a hero. So that's another cool thing. If there was a hero that sucked or was too good, it'd take a couple months, but they'd fix it and they'd make a new card for it. And so you could find all these new cards in this box. And more importantly, they started just putting the missions in this box, so you can just buy this box, get all the missions and all the updated cards instead of, I need to get the Thor box, but I'm never going to play Thor.
Oh, wow. Like a full update kit.
That's cool.
That's
cool.
I know they've done it twice already that I've seen. I'm sure they've probably done it more times, but I stopped keeping track of the game actively a while ago. Yeah, I liked it. It was cool.
Man, that's really interesting. And we'll get into this in our main topic for sure. But, like, the more you step back from the wall of GW, kind of, like, the more you see companies are doing it right, like that. And I know that's just
an interesting, because, like, that's a complicated fire. And I think this is such an interesting synergy between, like, you pointing out Crisis Protocol, I think is really going to feed into what we're going to talk about today as our main topic.
100%.
Because as a business owner and like how we stock our shelves, again, part of why we don't carry it anymore is because of that release schedule. Like, it's really hard to keep up with. They're dropping a model every other week, if not every week. And it's a lot of shelf space.
Yeah.
And if I might, right, like my perception, because I was one of the few people who was coming in and like, oh, hell yeah, there's new Crisis Protocol. It was very hard to tell what was going to move sometimes.
There was a combination
Yeah.
of that and just also like it wasn't. In here at the store, we hadn't established enough of an in-store play group where I could count on if I put it on the shelves, it's actually going to move. We'd buy 2 or 3 of the new thing, and they would linger for way too long, and then end up going online and race to the bottom.
Well, and if it's buffet style, like Garrett's saying, like,
Yeah, I
don't
can't
want this
fault you.
green stuff.
Yeah, and see, I didn't
want the
understand that. I didn't understand that aspect of the game. I was looking at more like Michael was saying, was that like, no, you're chasing for cards, the old FFG X-Wing style. I don't play Imperial, but I need these missiles. They only come in the Imperial, like in this ship. So you were buying stuff you didn't need just for the other extras that came with.
And that's one of those moves that, like, I actually think that was an amazing move when you take into consideration that they kind of wanted this limited box format.
Yeah.
Because then it was like a strategic choice of like, oh, I'm going to pick this box for my competitive roster because it's got this mission that's really good for this team that I want to build.
Okay.
As opposed to just for the characters that are in it. Because you're like building, if you guys haven't played in a while, a good refresher is like you build the mission with your opponent. So you have like a deck of mission cards.
Oh, okay.
And you get to pick one of your objectives and the opponent picks the other objective. And so like you're trying to build a mission that is favorable to your roster, which is kind of creates this interesting strategic depth. But for the casual player, the casual consumer, it does put you in this weird spot where it's like, well, I just kind of want to play the new missions. I'm just interested in having a new experience.
Yeah.
And so in the competitive depth aspect is not in play there. It just kind of doesn't fit.
Okay. Man, we have deep dived in this, and I'm
so intrigued.
It.
I'm so intrigued because, like, man, this completely affects. Had I had some of this information, I feel like this is the other side of the coin of like. I had a lot of these conversations with Michael. Like, do we have the audience for this? Should we keep it on the shelf? Whatnot. Had I had this perspective at the same time, I think we might have had a different approach, a different mindset towards like, is this something we keep as opposed to buying heavier somewhere else?
Yeah,
interesting. I'm very like I'm very intrigued because
cool.
I just had someone on the Discord message me and said like, "Hey, can you get me into Crisis Protocol?" And I was like, absolutely.
Back alley.
So if that
You and
changes
Chris.
anything for you.
Yeah, you
like
and Chris.
Paul plays as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
He still has all his stuff. And does Sammy still play? Or
No, so he was using my stuff.
Okay.
Because again, I had gone so much that like, oh, cool, I can play Avengers, I can play X-Force, I can play like the Doctor Strange Defenders. Yeah, I had a.
Do you still have yours? Mm-hmm. Okay.
I still have all mine painted.
No
stuff.
way. Okay, so right at the table.
It's funny too because I literally
group.
it is listed on OfferUp and Mercari my painted minis and they for months, and I keep lowering the price and no one's touched them. So maybe this is like maybe we just got to play.
See, that's where I feel like that's my feeling as a business owner is that like. Where's the market for it though? Has the game already like crested and now it's fallen off? You know, is it on its last legs? Because again, no game is eternal.
No, and they've released so much.
I won't lie to you, right? Like, I don't think this game is in its heyday. I think it's weirdly like there's this odd gap of it feels like the people who are playing tabletop games should be really into superheroes. And some of them are, but it's not as many as you would think.
Yeah.
The more like traditional fantasy or sci-fi aesthetics seem to have this appeal to the people who are in the shop. And it's like, I think Crisis Protocol has succeeded in some ways kind of in spite of its fluff.
Okay.
Kind of in spite of its fluff instead of because of it, because the game is good. It's really good. It's so good, in fact, that people who do not care about comic books, like I'm just a very casual comic book consumer.
Yeah.
But I love this game. I think it's incredible.
So like it's not standing on its IP as heavy as other games are. It's not relying on you love Marvel, so you're going to buy this and stick with it. No, it's you like Marvel, check this out. you come in. I think we talked about this. This was a topic we were going to do. It was like, you come in for the theme and you stay for the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like the theme is what drew you in. Like that's cool. But the game and the mechanics itself are what keep you there.
When I heard you say that, Mike, I was like in my car, like nodding. I was out loud, like, yes, that's exactly it. I think Crisis Protocol is a great example of it stands on its fluff only because when I put Spider-Man in my roster, he's doing all the Spider-Man things.
Yeah. Okay.
And it feels like, this is a comic book moment. This is a movie moment where he's doing all the Spider-Man things. And that's what's exciting about that, right?
You know who else does that really well? And again, we're still just going down this rabbit hole, which I love, but Unmatched.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unmatched is a wide net of like, you want to play Bruce Lee? Great, he's coming. You want to play Marvel? Great, it's there. You want to play Jurassic Park? Whatever.
Yeah.
You find what you like, and then you realize the game is fucking rad.
Yeah.
And then you stay there and try out other boxes. It's very interesting. Yeah, IP versus, I don't know, structure or whatever you want to call it. It could be a good topic.
Call me back for that one, dude. I can obviously talk about game design for an eternity.
Absolutely. Yeah, done. Well, moving through, thank you for being here, Garrett. We really appreciate it, especially on a Monday morning. So we want to also thank all of our patrons on Patreon. Thank you guys so much for supporting the shop, supporting the show, supporting us in doing this. I'm going to list out and just give a thanks to all of our patrons on Patreon, which, by the way, we just opened up a private Discord channel. So we're going to give you guys heads up on when we do events in store, when we release specific things, give you guys an opportunity to chat with each other, secret sales, whatever it is. But we're going to release a bunch of fun stuff on the Patreon-only Discord. Actually, Maria had this wonderful idea. She came up to me the other day and was like, hey, I had these printed for the shop. And she showed me.
Oh, they already started.
Did you? Oh,
Mina got hit.
one. So Maria chatted with one of our D&D players who 3D prints models. And I'll have to show it to you, and I'll put pictures here. But it's a space chimp. It's basically Sebastian sitting on the moon. And it's gray plastic. And she's like, I had this idea of you hide these around the shop. There's 2 of them. You hide them around the shop. And she bought like 8 different packs of different card games. And she's like, if anybody finds these, you get a free pack. I was like, great. So I printed a little label, put it at the bottom. It says redeem for a prize. And sure enough, right?
Mina found one by the fish tank.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And
yeah.
she takes it up to the front. Like, what do I do? Or she brings it to me. What do I do with this? I'm like, what's it say on the bottom? Redeem for a prize. I'm like, so what are you doing with it? What's redeem mean?
Oh, now we're learning.
You got to take it up front to I think Alex was on. Yeah. You got to take it up to Alex and he'll give you a prize for it. Okay. So there's a bunch of packs. There's Pokemon packs and there's a Lorcana pack. She's like, I want a Lorcana pack. And she gets a Lorcana pack. There was 2 Lorcana packs there. And she gets a double legendary pack. It was like a $50, $60 pack with like 2 cards that play in her decks. Let's go. Hands on the 8-year-old.
That's always the way that pulling packs works too, is just that the one that you get randomly, best
That's
pulls you're ever going to get.
Yeah, when you try sometimes like, this is the one.
That box is garbage. Yeah.
Well, to our Patreons, we're going to shout you out. Thank you so much to generic name, Logan, Curtis, Kelsey, Ricky, Garrett.
That's me.
I forgot you're on this. Justin, Brittany, Ron, John, New Dawavi, and the latest member, Beeson.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
all.
guys. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate you. Thank you guys for supporting the show. If you want to become a patron on Patreon for us, please check us out. Patreon.com/FunkatronicRex. We have links everywhere, so you can find us or search Funkatronic Rex, and we're there. $5 a month, you get all the fun, exclusive content that we're putting out. We're putting out outtakes. We've got the monthly crossword, which could give you a prize. We have the monthly Store Jams playlist, which could get you a prize as well. I've got fun store lore. I've got Miles going off for 35 minutes talking about Battletech lore and the history of the IP. So much is coming out. Every week, we're basically putting out new content. And then $15 a month will get you guys the Funkatronic family tier. So after a year of subscribing, we will send you a fun care package full of goodies, games, and whatnot. And you also get access to all the fun content that we put out. So thank you to patrons on Patreon. All right, news. We got some news here and upcoming. So news recap really is we had the Funkatronic Rex Double Trouble. It was our 40K teams event, which was really amazing, honestly.
It was great.
And it was born out of Lord Vader saying, hey, we need to fill a Saturday. What do you got? And I was like, let's get them teamed up. All right. And it wasn't a tournament, and we talked about it a little bit, but just recapping, it was so fun. We had, it was the biggest 40K
it was the biggest
event.
turnout we've had for 40K, anything.
It was the biggest turnout we had for 40K. It was, oh my gosh, I want to say like almost 30 players. I mean, it was almost 30 players. And so we randomly paired up people as teammates. They had to come up with a team name, lore for why their armies are teamed up, and a fun handshake or motto or war cry, and they did it. It was fantastic. Garrett, why don't you speak a little bit about that, because you kind of locked it in there, bud. You kind of did. And then I'm going to read off all of our fun team names that we had. So tell us a little bit about the Double Trouble event.
So the Double Trouble event is, for me, exactly kind of what I want out of playing games like this, playing games in a shop, because I'm not a tournament guy, and I know that this is not news for anyone who plays at Funk. This is not the tournament store. This is not the like meta grindy shop. And so what's great about this doubles event is that it's kind of chaos by its very nature. It's just wacky, you know, like I'm at this point one of the longer standing players in the shop for 40K, I think.
You've done most of our campaigns, if not all of them.
Well, I've missed 2, I think. But I've been playing 40K for a good couple years now. My partner at the event, this was like genuinely, I think it was like maybe his second actual game.
Oh, that's rad.
Oh, cool.
That's kind of rad.
It was great.
Yeah.
Who
what a good experience.
I was with Owen, who's a great dude. He was a Black Templar. Black Templar player.
Okay.
And I'm there with my Tau, and you're asking us to come up with lore reasons.
Wait, Black Templar hate Xenos, no?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I chat GPT, just a little background. I had you guys tell me what armies you had. It was random who you got paired up with, but I threw it in chat GPT and said, here are the players, here are the armies. Try not to match up the same armies together.
Okay.
Because I don't want Black Templars, like I don't want you playing with Kenny because he plays Black Templars. You're not going to have a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it matched up basically everybody with some crazy different army.
I think one of the other Black Templar players ended up with like Tyranids as their teammate. It was great, right? Like,
how do you explain that?
So and Court really liked this. The lore justification that we came up with was that my bold diplomatic strategy, my Tau's bold diplomatic strategy, was to just say that they were guardsmen. Just insist that, we're with you. We're just weird guardsmen.
Okay. The Imperial
Don't take off his
Guard.
helmet.
Don't take off the helmets. Don't like skip on those little hooves. Just shoving boots on those big weird goat hooves that Tau have. And like you lean into the silliness, and I think that's what the event did so well is like lean into the chaos, man. We're playing it. We're not here to play for money.
Yeah.
Yep.
What we're here to do is have a memorable experience.
Yep.
And matching up a bunch of people with these random tiny armies. And that was the other thing, right? I think this is a stroke of genius to make it 750 points.
You're welcome.
Because
Yeah.
you can't optimize that very well.
Nope. Nobody gets exactly what they want. Everybody's wasting points and or script. Like, oh, what can I get in there for that last 100? Like, stroke of genius. I agree.
I'm a chronic overcooker. I know this about myself when it comes to my lists. I try to come up with something like brilliant, and then oftentimes I'll get to the table and set it down, and I'm like, oh no, the fatal flaw, the obvious shortcoming. And I exactly had that experience because I came in and I was like trying to figure out what I was going to do. And I was like kind of assembling models, trying to get something together for this. And I didn't get it done in time. And so I was like, okay, this list will be pretty good. It's got a lot of punch, got a lot of teeth. And then I set it down and it was all teeth and no gums, no jaw, no nothing else, like crisis suits, and that's it.
Yeah.
And I was like, if you play Tau this edition, you should know you literally have to have support units for your army to function based on the way that our rule works.
Oh
like you have to spot with this support unit so that your damage stuff can do damage, because otherwise we actually have pretty bad shooting.
Yeah.
I did not bring like a single support unit. It was bad.
Oh, wow.
It was a rough list.
Yeah. And what was your team name?
We were the leftovers because we were the last two paired.
You were. Yes, you were. Yeah.
So we were chopped liver over there. It's great.
Reading through the team names, this is great. Some of these you can actually figure out what armies were which. So this is awesome. And I put out like a kind of band style. I don't know if you saw this. Did you see this? Like a band style tour poster of all the team names.
I did love that. Yeah, like a music
yeah.
festival. Was tight.
Yeah. I was like,
I would
fuck
go
it,
see,
I'm going to do this. It took me like 30 minutes. I was like, I don't care.
I would go see a band called The Leftovers.
Yeah, for sure. So our teams were, but after this, it gets complicated.
That was the Black Templars Nid player, I think.
De Pestilent Wa,
Wild guess.
Watarian, the Armored Phoenicians, JT's First Black Crusade, Scales of the Serpent, The Leftovers, of course, Blackbird Crusaders, Sid Riggs with a Z, The Flesh is Wa, Task Force Raptorlicious,
I really liked that name, actually.
Daddy Ew, which is Logan and I. And then one of my favorites was Hive Fleet Roomba. Because it was, I think it was...
Nids and Tau?
I think it was Nids and Admech.
Ooh.
Well, no.
It was, what was it? It was like...
They were going around like...
I think it was an Imperium and Nids.
But they were just
thing.
going around cleaning up.
Yeah.
all the
The
battlefields.
joke was that the Nids would come in and clean up everything left behind in the carnage.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, this was a very fun day, and it's not going to be our last time, for sure. We're definitely going to do something like this again, and I think that sweet spot of 750 was really good.
I think if you like to just nail down part of the success of that thing too is like, I think that we kind of occasionally can trick ourselves into thinking that the most dedicated players are the only players that there are. Which is why we lean into these like competitive forward events like at a lot of other shops. And I think having this be the biggest event is a great example of like, I made time for this because I work a lot. I've got a lot going on, and I thought that's going to be really stupid and really fun.
And it was, yeah.
And I think a lot of other people felt the same way, you know? It's like low stakes. Let's pop in. Let's play 750. You got new people. You got veterans.
We raffled
great.
off some stuff. It was good. And everybody was on the understanding that it wasn't a tournament. Because you could say it's a doubles tournament, and that would be rough.
That'd be a different story.
Yeah. So it was very good. And one of my highlights for that was writing out the rules, which were minimal. But there was this like, well, what happens if I have a stratagem that might affect my partner or vice versa and this and that. So I wrote just a brief, like, here's how this plays out. And with campaigns, it's very different. But I'm addressing everybody here, just talking, hey, guys, this is how we're going to do the rules. And I read it all. And I was like, are there any questions? And I like wince. Room is silent. Nope. We're good. We got it. And I was like, wow, okay. And I don't think once during the day we had I think this is broken. This doesn't work for us. It worked out really well. So super fun day.
Not an overcooked rule set.
Yeah.
Not overcooked at all. Like perfect. amount of, I think part of it too is just the expectation. Like you said, everyone knew that this was not a tournament. So I think when there was a rules question, we all kind of just collectively nodded and said, let's play this the funniest way possible.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Awesome. Well, we'll do one again for sure. Then coming up, we've got, lastly, we have the Catan Championship, October 5th, and we've got...
seats filling up.
Yeah, we're past half capacity now. So we are now past 16 spots, so we're officially recognized by Catan Studios, which it was an official tournament anyways, but now it's like legit. You can get to nationals with this. So it is a official Catan Store Championship. The winner gets an invitation automatically to nationals next year at the Catan National Championship. It's crazy. It's very fun. I think there's been a little bit of like, ooh, that's a little too competitive for me. And then people started learning like, you know what? Fuck it. I might as well try. It's $10 buy-in. Sure. And now we've got a lot of people coming. So it's going to be cool. It's going to be a very different day for us, though. It is going to be a very different Saturday for us.
Do you ever have that like game night with friends that you don't know super well and someone brings Catan? You're like, okay, yeah, I can play Catan. This is going to be a fun like little throw and dice game for me. And then you realize that one person in that room has a very different feeling about
They're
Catan.
the Catan shark.
The Catan shark, yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
That was my first and one of my almost only experiences with Catan. I was playing it in high school, like at a family. It was like my girlfriend at the time. Family game night. And, yeah, cool. What is this? Oh, well, you trade wood and you build things and you have sheep and like cool. And they're fucking cutthroat. Like, and I was like, oh, fuck this game. I'm not playing this anymore. Yeah. So yes,
they need institute rule 0 for more games.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the ground rules for our Catan run? What's the ground rules for Monopoly tonight?
Yeah. Goodness. All right, moving into hobby highlight. Of course, this is Michael's favorite segment. So
I got to grab mine.
Michael doesn't play games.
No.
It is. I will say this. It is tough. Like after being here over a year, Michael, you've been here for more than that for sure.
4 years. Yeah.
It is tough. Like you work a game store, you play less games.
Yeah.
And so,
dude, you go through life, you play less games.
Yeah.
Big events, it's like so hard to carve out. Like, I'm going to go on a Saturday. I'm going to spend 5 hours of one of my 2 days off, usually for most people,
and
playing a game. And it's like, I got to do the laundry.
Sometimes it's like seeing how the sausage gets made too. Like, I'll be very honest right now. Like, I don't give a shit about Magic. I just don't.
Dang.
I'm so sick and tired. I still love the game, and I just lost the game. But I still love playing with my I still love playing with my friends when I can. Like RJ's going to get a chaos draft going, which is going to be fun. But like, I don't care to talk Magic. I'm getting just very done with like the let me name one card and randomly name another and how they connect together and they were 20 years apart and then it's broken and it does this and would this be good in this deck for me? I'm like, man, I'm sorry, dude. I just don't know. I just don't know and don't care. I love the game, but I'm so burnt out that way. Oh. Michael, what do you got for us? Hobby highlights. Yeah, what's going on, man?
Not much.
Tell us how you've fallen out of love with Magic the Gathering.
No,
I'm really hoping when listeners are enjoying this podcast, they're like pausing, waiting for you, and then they say it out loud too, like not much. Oh.
So Space Marine 2 just came out, which is a video game. I think it's on track to be like one of the best games, like best game of the year nomination.
Really?
It's supposed to be hot, man. Yeah.
Really? This is all over the shoulder, like third person shooting,
Gears
right?
of War style.
And it's on track to be game of the year. Wow.
It's huge.
No shit.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it's got a little bit of that new shine for sure.
Okay.
But like, it's got a good roadmap.
It helps that like it seems like for the people who do play video games, it's very common now that game developers will release a broken game and then people are still going to buy it because it's Call of Duty. It's a Call of Duty game, so anyone's going to buy it. We can just not put any effort into this game and it's going to suck. but it's fine because we made all the initial cells and whatnot.
The classic, again, IP versus substance or whatever. Yeah.
So this game was lucky in that besides a few server issues, like the game's pretty much near perfect, which is kind of sad to say because like this used to just be the standard for video games. But again, in 2024 now, you play broken games and that's all you can do. No, this game is near perfect. Near perfect. But in playing Space Marine 2, getting to customize, being the most ultramarine tactical.
It's a game made for you, really.
It is like, oh, cool. Ultramarines campaign and whatnot. It makes me, like, there's been plenty of times where, like, oh, man, I'm going to go pull out my models. I'm going to start painting so I can paint this guy. And then I realize, wow, all these shoulder pads and decorative designs and whatnot, they don't got nothing of this in game. I have to, like, go to 3D printer, sculpt. No way, man. But little by little, it's like, oh, man. Getting, again, the most dripped out Ultramarine in the game. And I'm like, wow, if I had this model, I'd be playing it. So
didn't they release the model as like a promo?
That was Lieutenant Titus. It was tied to like a Space Marine board game that I want to say is like hard to find right now.
They sold it at Target too.
That was also one of those like, Target, really?
Yeah.
But
also like for most of the consumers, we kind of side-eyed it because it was like 5 Termagants or something.
Oh, yeah.
And 1 Space Marine.
And he's like, he's a fine sculpt, but he's just, Titus is like a big boy in the game, and this was just kind of an intercessor.
I think it was like literally like 1 Space Marine versus like
it literally
5 or
was,
6 Termagants. Yeah.
So
it's weird.
People have made cooler kit bashes of that character. And of the protagonist of Bolt Gun, the other 40K shooter that came out.
Yeah, the classic like Doom style.
Yeah, I liked that one a lot.
Kind of Duke Nukem vibe. Yeah. So you've been playing that?
Yes.
Dig it.
It is making me, the appreciation of Warhammer is a lot more because like the campaign's good.
Yeah.
Marneus Calgar shows up out of nowhere, and this is the first time you get to see him in like live action. He
Double
shows up.
Power Fist himself?
Yeah.
Wow. That's rad. So it's kind of boosting your love and appreciation for 40K.
It was.
Cool.
For the longest time, I had been on like such Age of Sigmar, fantasy, like role, getting pulled back into the sci-fi universe and like, this is why the Space Marines are cool.
It does nail the atmosphere, doesn't it?
Again, this game is near perfect. The fact that like the entire campaign, it's just you and 2 other guys, and they're like sending you to save planets, and you somehow get it done versus millions of Tyranids. You feel like you're a Space Marine, and it feels like you're unstoppable sometimes when you're swinging your chainsword around, or when you perform an execute and you rip a Tyranid's head off, or like a lictor shows up and you rip his arm off, and then you like show it in his head. It is great. It is all you could ask for in a Warhammer game.
Let me ask you this though. Sorry to cut you off, Garrett. I brought this to Northern Exile too as like a lore question kind of thing. How does this game rectify or settle the like? I have a bolter or a bolt pistol even and like 1 extra clip. Like on models, you see the 1 clip in the bolter and then he's got like maybe an extra on the side and I'm going against 1,000 Tyranids.
Like
how do they kind of settle that?
After playing a lot, finding ammo is an actual challenge because there's so many Tyranids you have to fight in any given scenario. It's like constantly like, oh crap, my bolter's out of guns. I guess pull out the pistol. Oh, my pistol's out. I got to go fight someone with chainswords. They do pretty good with like, as you progress in the missions, there's like, oh, ammo crate. You can go blow up crates and like, oh cool, found ammo. Found a med stim. You can find guns on the floor to like switch your like class around and whatnot. It does good. Cool. If anything, that is one of the complaints I've seen. It's like, guys, you got to give us a little more ammo. We can't kill thousands of Tyranids with 3 clips of
Because it's always been like the idea that this thing is just scar-facing everything, but it's not. Like lore-wise, like it's taking shots very specifically. Like Space Marines are not just spraying and praying. They are praying for sure.
No, they are definitely spraying and praying.
In this game.
Oh, man.
You'll find clips of like, dude, again, the one thing that I've never understood with like GW modeling is like, if you have a gun and there's a sight, you need to be, like, I figure you're aiming down the sight. No, these people are just Rambo style, you're holding it at your like hip and you're just...
Well, that's how you're playing it. I mean, think like lore-wise, they are targeting specific... So that's my gun sound, apparently.
To that, one of the big like points of conversation is that this game is like hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. And part of what makes it difficult is that it's like a big mini game that's going on in every mission is resource management.
Oh.
Like, yeah, you can absolutely like bump the difficulty down. You're playing on the lower stuff, just
Still hard.
mow down a lot of like just blasting with your bolter through a million nids. But on the harder difficulties, like I'm very much like I'm conditioned by Halo, where the second hardest difficulty is always the thing that I'm going to click. Because that's how
I'm kind
Halo
of the
was
same
designed.
way. Yeah.
And so I just kind of, in Space Marine, it literally says, this is the intended experience when you go to that. And if you don't have ammo for the warriors, like I'm not even that far into the game. And it's like, I'm not shooting anything that doesn't matter. Like when it comes to gaunts, you are getting punched.
It's also funny how like it scales from like, all right, this is manageable to like, oh no, we just all died. Cause like I've only played so there's the PvP, which is the only thing I've been playing because they do a weird thing where like you have to win PvE or PvP games to like start unlocking all the armor things. One PvE game is going to take you like 30 minutes, and if you suck like me, you're going to lose, so you won't even get the progression. So cool, I've been grinding out the PvP so I can have all the dripped out armor, so then I can go start doing PvE. But like I was playing one game, it was with a couple friends, because queuing up randomly, it's tough because new players want to. It's already a hard game, and so if you don't have a good teammate, it's like, oh cool, you're not helping me.
Yeah.
Wait, what's the difference between PvP and PvE?
So in PvP, it's 6v6. You're playing, you have your squad of 6 Space Marines, and you're playing against 6 Chaos Space Marines. In PvE, it's like, no, it's like a mini story. You're like, oh, in this, we have to fight all the Tyranids, and then we have to go activate a thing to blow up the planet. It's more like story driven.
Okay.
As opposed where PvP is just like, no, you're just running around, shoot Space Marines.
Got it.
As Space Marines. It's good. But I was playing PvE, it's like, cool, we're killing Tyranids. This is easy. And then you get to the end, and then like, oh, Thousand Suns just show up, and these are actual Marines, and like you have no ammo because you just spent all of it killing, and they're good at shooting. It goes from like, all right, Gaunts, who cares?
Yeah.
To, oh crap, now we're getting shot at, and they're doing a ritual, and you stop them, then they go do another ritual, and then you have to stop them, and then they do another ritual, and by the way, now you got to defend this post for 2 minutes as you're out of ammo. This game doesn't have like a healing mechanic besides shield, so you have to be careful not to get hit too much, because then you're at low health and you're gonna die, and then
I'm
you
always
die.
on health.
Dude, my boy is
always on
hyped
health.
about
It
this.
is.
So like
It's an
into it.
experience.
Wow. I just want to watch.
Kinda.
the big selling point of this game, and I don't know that if you know this, but like the whole gimmick is you see those Tyranids running at you from over that hillside, those hundreds of Tyranids, those thousands of Tyranids. You're going to kill all of those Tyranids. Those are the actual enemies. And it's like over and over again in this game, you just see this like wave of bodies rolling over the hillside, and you're like, surely the game doesn't expect me to deal with this,
It
right?
does. It does.
It does every time.
Call me Shirley.
Even in just like the opening mission, you get dropped in, you're a Death Guard guy, you're following the planet, finding all your Death Guard squadrons dead, and you're killing Tyranids. You get to the very end, and you see in live action like a Tyranid warrior kills the last guy in your squad.
Death Guard, you're playing as
Oh,
like
no,
Death Watch.
Death Watch.
Oh,
my bad. Yeah,
I was like, oh, that's cool.
And then you like climb up this thing, you kill the Tyranids, and then like Garrett says, you like look over, you're on like elevated platform, and you just see thousands and thousands of Tyranids running at you, and like Garrett says, like, dude, there's no way I'm gonna have to fight all this. Nope, they start climbing up, going to you.
They like. Did you guys ever see that movie World War Z?
Yeah.
Where they
Yeah.
like the zombies make a big pile
They, like,
where
climb
they
up and
like,
they
climb
the
walls.
Nids do that.
Yeah.
Where
Oh
they're
my
like
gosh.
literally climbing over each other. It's
Yeah.
full of like trailer moments
That's
where
rad.
you're like, that is a disgusting amount of aliens. I'm going to kill all of you.
It got to the point where like there is no way I'm about to die on the first mission, and then it gets to like a perfect. They like knock you down, and then for a while you're still playing as this Death Watch guy, but you're legitimately can't lose any health. You're just standing there shooting all the Tyranids, and then a Carnifex shows up and almost kills you. It's great. It's
Oh
great.
man, I gotta watch this.
It's
All
great.
right. Jeez.
And it helps that the graphics are. There's a good graphics too. Like everything about the game, it's near perfect. I'm telling you.
If your computer is not really good,
It'll blow
be
up.
warned. Like it's demanding.
So for hobby highlights, Michael had nothing.
Yeah, he's like, not much. Bam!
I think he's just doing the same thing that I do in my head, which is like, I've been playing video games recently, so I'm like, I guess nothing.
Video games don't count, right?
Different hobby.
Well, what do you got, Garrett? What's going on hobby-wise?
Well, I'm so glad you asked me on this week because for months I've had like nothing because I was just too busy. I was kind of burnt out. But I've had a box full of like a near complete Craft World Eldar army for like almost 2 years now that I've just done nothing with. And I just like... I think I was in the other day and I was looking at, a bunch of 40K boxes and I was like, I got to paint my Eldar. I really got to paint my Eldar. But I'm like, I'm having fun painting this army, which is the first time that I've like had fun starting a new army in a long time.
There you go.
Because, like you just get to that point where you're like, I've got my main thing and I kind of just like playing my main thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, I kind of like the idea of having this army. I don't know that I actually want to put in all the work to do it.
Yes.
But like, when you're excited about a new army, you find those moments. Like you find like, all right, I'm going to put base coats down for 10 minutes because I have 10 minutes to work on this. And so I gotta make this red so that it looks red so that I can, do all the other steps. But I'm having a ton of fun. I think those models are great. I know that like they're very divisive. Alex like made fun of me. He was like, Craft World Eldar, and I get it. They're like dorky. They kind of are these dork. I love them.
That's my first army.
Them.
Was it really?
That was my first like proper. I bought a whole army was Eldar. Yeah, because I was just buying random models and I never played the game until I was an adult, and then I was like, what looks cool? I think Eldar looked cool. It was before Tower out. Mm-hmm. And
because the Craft World Codex had come out at that point. And you could play different Craft Worlds.
My army was mostly metal too.
Yeah, I have my metal Farseer Council still in my display case, painted.
I think Eldar are rad. So.
Yeah.
I think Eldar are sick. I think that Eldar is one of the only armies in 40K still that embodies this like 80s futurism aesthetic in this very cool way. Like they're very kind of astronaut inspired. They're sleek. Their angles. They're like jet bikes and stuff like that. And I was gonna talk about this a little bit like when introducing myself, but this goes back to like a very formative childhood experience for me. My mom was the director of the Challenger Space Center.
What?
Yes. She was like, this was her idea. She was part of the team that pitched this museum. It was up in Peoria. I don't know if you guys ever did this, but it was like a huge aspect of my childhood because my mom was the director there. And so I would like go after school with her to work and I would be in this museum full of just space paraphernalia. Yep. Wow. And one of the best features of this whole thing is like the building was built like a rocket silo. And so there's this big inner chamber in the middle. And all along the walls of this, there's an artist named Robert McCall, who's a friend of my family's. He was an officially commissioned artist for NASA. Like he made a series of paintings documenting the space race. He made promotional materials for 2001: A Space Odyssey. He did like concept work for this first Star Trek motion picture. And this is a huge room, like genuinely actually scaled down, but missile silo room. And floor to ceiling is a mural depicting like conceptions of what space travel might look like in the future.
Oh, wow.
And I would like go into this room and just wander the floor, staring up in wonder and amazement at these things. And like, I genuinely think you can draw just a straight line in the armies that I play in 40K directly to that art.
Wow.
Because of like, I'm just drawn to this
The aesthetic works.
retro future, like this hopeful aesthetic. I really encourage anyone to like go look up Robert McCall, MCCALL, and like look at the art, the paintings that he made for NASA, and it's mind-blowing stuff. It looks amazing.
I'll put some of the pictures in our post when this drops and on our Discord as well to that artwork. Wow. Rad. So, Eldar. I've been working on it.
I'm having a great time.
Good.
It's Oops All Bikes.
Nice. Cool. Very cool. Yeah, good.
Have I seen your Eldar? On the
No,
table before?
I've never brought them in. I mean, like I've had these for like 2 years, and I had a bunch of ideas for how I wanted the paint scheme to be, and it just
Craft
never
World?
worked. I do
You're
my
just
own
doing your
thing.
own thing,
I always
yeah.
do my own
Good,
thing.
cool.
The scheme is stark white, and all of the like energy bits are like fiery yellow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a very stylized approach, more stylized than I like typically do.
Okay.
So they're kind of like sketchy and weird. Like I came up with a scheme that I could do really fast.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because I just don't have that much time right now.
Yeah.
Like I got engaged fairly recently. I'm planning a wedding. I'm working. I might be starting a new job soon. My job right now is pretty demanding. And so I've got all these things going on, and I have to contend in my head. It's like, I love playing games. Games are always going to be a part of my life. I want to get this army done. I have to be realistic about how much time I have to do
Right.
this. And so if I'm spending like more than 5 minutes on a step right now, not good.
Wow. Yeah. Right on. Lord Vader.
I have been cheating with my hobbying as always. I love it. I have 3 different hobby highlights. One is this brand new table behind you that our friend Russell
yeah.
finished.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple bits on there that aren't part of it, but like for the most part, all that smelting, spiky bits, that stuff, Russell killed it. I really like it. We've got another Sigmar table now.
It's a really unique set, too. Like, I don't even remember when this came out.
It's like a 1.5 year old Warcry box.
Oh, okay.
Warcry had some great terrain.
Yeah.
So we got that one done, and I was very happy about that.
Looks awesome.
And then-
and smartly, by the way, he put his business card under these. Did you see that?
Super
smart.
Oh, smart.
Russell's a hustler.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's got it.
This is how we do
He's
it.
putting in the work. Like Russell,
For real.
if you're on the Discord, you've never seen Russell's work. That guy is great.
If you like
great painter.
Orktown, he's done 4 of our tables now.
Yep.
He's done this one. He's done the Moss Sector Mechanicus.
I love that one.
Orktown is still my favorite. And then he consolidated and finished up another Sector Mechanicus. Oh no, and the Border Town.
Jeez.
Yeah, no, he's killing it.
Working.
You've talked it to death, but I have so much respect for any commission painter who can do terrain.
Oh,
'Cause
yeah. Jeez.
I can't even do my own terrain.
I'm just impressed with the fact that like he's honed his craft and just like stuck to it. They're like, no, I don't want to work. He was working just like anybody else for at a place.
Yeah.
He didn't want to work there anymore, so he just hustled his way into like, I'm my own boss now because I paint things. I'm doing what I like to do, and good for you, Russell.
Yeah.
Keep up the good work. Similarly, I have been very fortunate. I convinced Sammy.
Oh, yeah.
Look, I don't want to be a commission painter, Sammy. That's okay. Sammy, I don't want you to be a commission painter. Really, I don't. Sammy, I don't want you to commission paint. This is not the lifestyle for you, sir. I promise. You don't want to do this. But f- me, I love... Look at these mechs!
Yeah, they look
These
good.
mechs are rad! That is
Yeah.
table ready to... Like, I'm stoked to play my new mercenary force of stuff that I'd never play because Inner Sphere mechs can't hang, but at least they're cool looking. I finally get to, like, this is one of the sexiest sculpts in the game.
What is that?
This is a Night Star, and I never get to play this because this is specifically old Star League tech that
Clans just don't run it.
These disappeared a long time ago, and clans just built their own new stuff. We might have one or two of these tucked away, but like we don't have these normally.
Yeah.
Like I can't run this, and that's just a sweet looking mech. And this sculpt is 10 times better than it looks in MWO. Yeah. In MWO, it has these weird like flares, like this pod and this pod are flared out more, and it just loses the like angular jet fighter. Like to me, what you were saying about Eldar being like kind of the aesthetic that this is the aesthetic that I go for. I want that Ed 209 look. Spaceship, boxy, like everything about this is like, yes, that is a war machine. I love it. So yes, Sammy has knocked it out of the park here. I've got like 3 lances or 2 level 2 lances of a mercenary group that's got all sorts of options. I got a jumping crusader. I got an Atlas, a Night Star. This is a Marauder and his big brother, the Marauder 2.
Okay.
Oh man, I just built one of these in MWO with 2 rotary AC5s and 2 heavy lasers. Oh man, you just walk up on it's got ECM and stealth armor and AMS. You walk up behind him. What's going on with my sensors? I don't know. And you just, it's so satisfying because it's a machine gun of like big round, like it's like a grenade round. It's rad.
Nice.
I'm very happy with Sammy's paint job here.
We'll put pictures in our Instagram post when this episode drops.
I'm probably gonna like play this for 2 months, and then it's gonna end up either online or in the case because
looks great.
It looks rad, and I want to have an excuse to have him paint more stuff. So like, what do I want to play with next? I don't know. Here's some other mechs I've never played. Sammy, paint these because they look rad.
He did a great job. He was in the shop and just like locked himself away in the back office painting. And every now and then he would come out and be like, Court, do you think that this is the yellow? What do you think about that? Yeah, I think you should. Okay, cool. And he would just like scurry off back into the back office.
My cockpit glass looks
he
rad.
He was doing great.
Like everything.
Oh, yeah.
He's killed it.
The snow effect, like, it's awesome.
These are very clean coats. Like, it's very much, if you ever see like a fresh wrapped supercar, that candy coat red, that's genuinely a very hard effect to achieve.
Yeah. No, I'm happy with them. And I already got to play a game with some of them. I'm very excited.
Playing Intersphere.
That's been a challenge. 6 mechs is a lot of bodies. Ron fought me to a draw. I played a lot more than Ron.
Yeah, he's
Ron fought me to a draw with a dirty wolf list that I like. It was like 2 Timberwolves, a dire wolf, and like whatever else doesn't really matter because you have 2 Timberwolves and a dire wolf. And I think I had this and this and this. I don't play trebuchets, so I didn't have that on the table.
You hate trebuchets.
I hate them, but I made Sammy paint one because it's funny. I'll never field it. But I had this. I had a Marauder 2, a Night Star, an Atlas, a Bushwhacker, a Valkyrie, I think is what this is called, and a Commando. And Ron fought me to a draw specifically because it was the Bushwhacker, I think. It was this versus one of his lights with 1 pip. This had 2 pips, but this couldn't move. It could only move 1 because it had 2 movement hits.
Oh.
And we killed each other simultaneously.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was very satisfying, very cinematic.
Cool.
So you saw 2 mechs crumple. And they were base to base, so they would have crumpled into each other. And just,
that's rad.
They're kissing at the end. They're dead.
What's your third hobby highlight?
Man, I had a third one. I was all excited. And, I also have been playing a video game. I finally, 3 years later, bought MechWarrior 5. So I played MechWarrior Online, which is very similar, same universe, whatnot, but different game engine game than MechWarrior 5. MechWarrior 5 is much more campaign-driven, and MechWarrior Online is just PvP all day long, 12v12, or like you do big 48 versus 48, like staged, whatever. You do big matches, just shoot each other, or you do this like campaign thing in MW or MechWarrior 5. Alex has been on MechWarrior 5, I want to say for like a year and a half. He's been telling me about stuff, and like he was talking another mission that he's further than me. I'm only like 3-4 days in. Like I've maybe put like 7 hours into this game. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Locking, yeah. Like, I still like missile boats, and like, I prefer MechWarrior Online because you can just buy whatever you can afford. Like, I want whatever kind of mech. Because this one's campaign driven, you don't have access to whatever. You got to find
You gotta earn it,
You
kinda.
got to. Well, you start at a specific point in space, and you have to get to other places where there's cooler stuff to buy.
Oh yeah, you don't have access to it right away.
And so like right now I have lame mechs, but I'm still enjoying throwing missiles at like flying things. VTOLs versus an LRM-5. It's very satisfying.
That's sick.
So yeah, I've been playing a video game, and it's not the same one. That's it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Dig that. Cool. Hobby highlight on my end is more like actual playing oriented. I love it. I played Game of Thrones, the board game, the other night. That's
Good game.
It's so good. If you're not backstabbing each other, and if you're not like yelling at some point in this game, you're playing it wrong.
Yep.
It's the Fantasy Flight Game of Thrones board game. And myself, Kenan, and Christo were playing it, which I tend not to like this at a 3-player game. I feel like it plays better at 4 to 5 because it just feels like an imbalance almost. But this was the most fun 3-player version of this game I've ever done. I was playing Stark, which is very tough up at the north. You really got to work your way down. Kenan was playing Lannister, and Christo was Baratheon. It all felt weirdly spot on. I don't know why. Like, it felt like, yeah, these are the houses. I feel like this is right. And not for the wrong reasons, like for the good ways. No, like, don't read into that.
That can play to like 8 players.
I think it plays to 6.
6 players. Okay.
Where is it?
Weirdly, I was, as soon as you said
6,
Kenan,
3 to 6.
I was like, it's going to be Lannisters. And then you said Lannisters, and I was like,
I don't know why.
It just felt right.
It felt right. And that was fun. We were screaming at each other, and yeah, it was good. And then I also taught Christo Call of Cthulhu, the card game, because I love my dead LCGs. And we played that. That was fun. And then yesterday, I got to play 40K. So on the Discord, Adam was like, hey, anybody looking for a game? As all of us do. And no one had answered. And I was like, fuck it. Yes, maybe. Let's do this. And so 1K, sure. 1K game of 40K. He brought bugs. I brought Necrons. So Tyranids v Necrons. And we played, and it was 1,000 points. And it was so fun. It was great. We were just yelling at each other, having fun, cheering each other on. He kicked my ass. Like, it was good. We played on this table. It was very fun to just get a game in and roll dice. And yeah, we just had a blast. So thank you, Adam. Huge fun time. So I want to do a weird, fun little segment here. I'm going to do a brief review because we talked about the Arkham Horror role-playing game that came out recently. I ran the Learn to Play, and folks have been asking about how this works and what the game is like. And I want to just do a brief review on my end. I really enjoy this game. I think it has some interesting quirks. And so with Halloween season rolling around, I think there's a lot of interest in the Arkham Horror role-playing game. It's new. They only have the starter box. Yes, there is a core rule book that is coming out. They've talked about the release, not the release schedule per se, but a couple of the developers have said, yes, there's going to be, I think, quarterly releases of different content. They even came out with the Arkham Horror comic book. It's 2 issues out. I went to Samurai Comics the other day. I picked up the first 2 issues. And within that, they actually have, on the last couple pages, they have like copyable or scannable content of like, hey, here's new characters you can play, or here's a new map that you can use within the role-playing game. It's actually really cool. So that's a big bonus. I will say, as I said on the previous episode, it does suffer from good game, bad rulebook.
Okay.
Again, starter box.
Right.
So that's
it's
fine.
not even the proper core rulebook yet.
It's not.
So for all we know, some of these answers have been sorted out in the core rulebook to come.
Which actually, and I feel like this is kind of definitive in the good game, bad rulebook, or maybe not. They've already errated a ton of stuff, and they've already come out with an FAQ.
Oof.
Within a month or so of it releasing, 2 months, which, good that they did that. but it definitely covers, like, everybody had questions. Like, well, what if I do this? Well, what if this happens? Robert came up with the biggest question, which is, so in your turn, you can do any number of complex actions that your dice pool allows that you can spend. He's like, well, why don't I just do the same complex action over and over and just use one dice? So instead of like, I'm going to fight this guy, grab 4 of my dice to spend 4 in the dice pool and roll and hope I get a success. Like, yeah, you'll probably get a success. He's like, well, why don't I just do it one at a time?
Wouldn't it be like different complex actions?
So in the starter box, it doesn't say you can't do that.
Yeah.
So he was like, well, why don't I just take one dice? I punch this, fail. Okay, I punch it again, fail. I punch it again, success. Great, you got it. Like, it only took you 3 tries versus spending 4 or 5 of your dice to roll it all in one. That was one of the first things that they eroded was you cannot do the same complex action in the same turn. But nowhere in the starter rules does it say you couldn't. So it was like this, well, what do we do? So it also leans heavy in the, we're going to learn this as the game and story progresses, which is tough because if you have players at a table who are experienced in like role-playing games or have just a crazy cool imagination, they're going to go off the rails in a fun direction right away.
Yeah.
The starter does not help you in that way at all. Like, it is very much go this way, go this way, go this way. Well, what if I go that way?
No.
And I'm flipping through the page. No, you have to make it up. So the one thing that you do need for this, I would say, is a very creative DM. Someone who is going to run this game in a very creative way and roll with the punches, bring you back. If you have XYZ and they go to B, you need to pull them back. And you need to find a way to get them back on the track of XYZ. There's a distinct lack of resources for this game in a way where I looked on YouTube. There's not a single, not one, at the time of this recording, video of people playing through this game. There are plenty reviews. There are plenty of unboxings because the content is rad. Yeah, it's cool. Here we go. Let's open this together. There's not a single video of people playing through this game at all, except I found deep in YouTube, there is a brief, like 25 to 30 minute playthrough of the demo at like Gen Con, like last year, I think. And they don't even play through a scenario that's in the starter box. And the guy who's running it, who's like one of, they call him flight crew, I think, for FFG, kind of knows what's happening and is doing his best. But there's not a playthrough of this at all, so you can't like look and see how this should go. It's very interesting. It is dripping in theme, though. Where it succeeds is the idea that like it is pulpy as shit. You are going to shoot cultists. You are going to solve puzzles and do weird arcane stuff by rolling. You are going to have really cool material in front of you instead of like, you find this piece of paper and it says da-da-da-da-da. No, here's the piece of paper with blood stains on it because they gave you the fun printout. There it is. Material-wise, phenomenal. Very cool. So I highly recommend the Arkham Horror RPG with the caveat that there are some very interesting quirks to it. You definitely need a fun DM who's going to run this and is going to run it at the right table. There is a little bit of lack of creativity where you don't create your character. Your character is created for you. You get to pick one of these few. So there's that.
Starter box.
But damn, is this a beautiful starter box. Like, holy shit, the production on it is phenomenal. So, good game, interesting rule book, we'll say. But again, starter box. So. Whoa, what?
Yeah! I'm sorry. I'm going to emergency. Breaking news. Michael just handed me. That's today.
Yeah. 2 hours ago.
What?
Michael just handed me an announcement from Magic the Gathering with 4 new additions to the Commander band list. And I love it!
Hit us with it. What do we got?
Dockside Extortionist is banned!
Yep. I think we saw that coming.
Jeweled Lotus is banned. Mana Crypt is banned.
Wow.
And Nadu, Winged Wisdom, is
Nadu?
banned.
The bird?
That new bird. Yeah, because that was really easy to break multiple ways. But Dockside is the only one that hurts me. I'm okay with that. I think I have one in that pirate deck.
Yep. No, because it got taken out.
Oh, no, then it's in my deck.
I think it's in the
Copy
there.
Otters.
Yep.
Dude.
Copy Otters doesn't need it. It needs the slot. That's fine. Dockside Extortionist is banned.
Mana Crypt as well, which is Ixalan, right?
That was its latest reprint.
Yeah, the
Oh,
latest
man.
one.
I love it.
Holy
I
crap.
love
Wow.
Dude, this Jeweled Lotus is going to be like worthless now.
it. I don't know about worthless.
It doesn't play anywhere else because it specifically says your commander's identity. So in any format with no commanders, it does nothing. And then Mana Crypt, dude, that is okay. Sorry, that was breaking news.
That is breaking news.
Wow.
I'm sorry, you were saying
That was cool. I'm gonna laugh, man. And you
No,
know what? Today
Jeweled Lotus.
is
Oh,
Magic Monday for us, so those are gonna get some.
snaps. Was that the only band, or is just the only one that matters to
That's
us?
the only one that matters. I think this was the only one though.
My-
That is
So wait, now that is official from Magic,
yeah,
from
Wizards of the
WotC.
Coast.
Wizards
Yep.
of the
Yeah.
Coast actually stepping in and saying, by the way, we still control the format, kind of, sort of, yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
I think we still need to ask them about wishing cards and what's the point of cards that don't do anything if I can't have a sideboard or if I can have a sideboard. But I'm very excited by these bannings.
it is, yeah.
Man, okay, well, this I think ties into Magic a little bit. This is gonna
Bananas. Just bananas.
This is gonna be a fun. We're gonna do this as a brief segment, introducing gaming vocab. There's a lot of words and phrases out there that we use in gaming that aren't so frequently defined or well known, or just kind of they're common in a game store, and you may pick up a few, but you may not truly understand what they mean, or you're just going to be educated here. So, gaming vocab. Our first one is going to be defining power creep. Power creep. So, Lord Vader, will you take us and just kind of give us the definition?
Power
of
creep.
Power creep.
POWR creep. I think Michael should take this,
Yeah.
actually. I think Michael can define it better because I'm like, we know what it is, but I'm sure you could come up with examples, like specific examples where I'm going to be like, hey, there's a card like Clone. Clone is a 4-drop, a blue,
Yeah,
and
that's a good one.
3 that when it enters the battlefield, it enters the battlefield as a copy of target creature.
Yeah.
At this point, what's that mimic bird that just came out?
Oh, Mockingbird?
Mockingbird is a blue and X. X needs to be the CMC of whatever it's targeting, but it can copy whatever, except it's also flying and it's also just better, and it's just better and better and better. Like, again, Michael,
So,
give me
yeah,
a better
what is the
working with
definition of
Clone.
power creep?
Working with Clone.
Okay, so this is in the context of Magic because I feel like this is where you see it the most, at least right now. To me, power creep is over the course of time, you are specifically making cards stronger than the cards that came before it. Perfect example, like Mike said, Clone, which was, granted, this is a card that's been around with Magic pretty much since its creation.
Yeah. Like 2 years into Magic, Clone existed.
But in Magic, Clone it's a blue and 3 colorless. This creature enters the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield. So cool. It is literally you're cloning a creature that's on the board. That card came out again right around Magic's first release, and that is one good example of a card that just as the time goes by, they make functional reprints that are just better than Clone. Like, why play Clone when you can play XYZ? One good example is there's a card called Clever Impersonator. It's also a 4-drop, except this one's a little different. It's a 2 blue mana pips and then 2 colorless. But it comes in as a copy of just, I think, anything on the battlefield. Not even a creature. You can copy a land, you can copy an artifact, you
Any
can copy a
permanent.
planeswalker.
Copy target permanent.
So if I can offer sort of like a generalized definition, power creep, to my perception, is adding a feature, unit, card, etc., that is better in each scenario.
Yeah,
than
it's just straight up
another
better.
card.
Yeah,
that,
strictly
Just
better.
strictly better.
right? So like you might have situations where like, oh well, this tribal could potentially make a card feel different. Like this keyword could make it slot into different places better. However, if there's no support for that thing or whatever, and you have this card, this unit, this whatever that fulfills that role, but always better.
I'll do you one better. Usually for green, there's like a pay a green and 1 at instant speed. You can kill something with flying. The modern day equivalent would be pay a green and 1, choose 1, kill something with flying, or something else. And I know for a fact there's multiple different versions of that card where it's like kill something with flying or do this other thing. That's strictly better than the original card because that gives me 2 functional options as opposed to 1. It's 2 cards in 1. So this other card just becomes combat ineffective. There's no, like when slots are limited, why do I want this one? I specifically want this one instead. And so that old card just becomes unviable on a multitude of levels, both playability wise, sellability wise, like other than somebody who's actually trying to collect a full set and I just need one of everything. Why will I ever, what was the old school one that like just killed something with flying? It's not fling. Fling throws things, but whatever.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So I think it's important to step back and look at it also from a timeline perspective because creep doesn't denote that it is instantaneous, that this set happens. It is over the course of years or sets that the power creep sets in like, hey, this is now becoming a thing.
I got a good definition from ChatGPT. I told it, define the term power creep in the context of gaming. Power creep in gaming refers to the gradual introduction of stronger or more powerful abilities, characters, weapons, or items over time, which can make older content or strategies less viable. As newer updates, expansions, or releases bring progressively stronger options, the power level in the game escalates, often leading players to feel compelled to use these new additions to remain competitive or relevant. This phenomenon can disrupt game balance, making earlier features or content obsolete. Power creep is common in collectible card games, MMORPGs, and other games with ongoing development.
There it is.
That's a perfect summation of everything it is.
So I think it might be sort of relevant to talk sort of briefly about why does something like power creep happen, and
because this is all a business.
I think that
at the end of the day, that is ultimately what everybody in the production publishing end of this.
Yes.
They are the ones putting it in front of you. I promise you at the end of the day, it is sell more plastic, sell more cardboard. They do not care about your gaming experience the way we do at the ground level. They don't. They can't. They care about serving the stock and serving like the numbers. They legitimately don't care about the fact that I'm invested in this game and my card pool already had a card that did that thing. No, I'm going to give you a reason to buy the new one. And, you know, you don't have to buy the new one, but now you're behind. And again, on so many different tips and from selling this stuff for years. If it wasn't for power creep, I don't know that we'd really have a viable business model. Just based on the fact that like without power creep, you can't sustain old game systems very well. It becomes a lot harder proposition.
Yes.
A game like BattleTech does it well because they don't do it through power creep. They do it through just like, here's more content. Here is more content. We have this huge universe. Here is more content. Games like some of these other companies rely on it. So Magic, we've already called you out, so we'll do it. Magic relies on power creep, relies on endless more text and more text and more text on common cards. You can open any Magic pack, and I promise you'll find one common that compared to like something 20 years old is just absolutely stupid different levels of power. Like, what is going on? This does 3 things and is cheaper than this one that was like, this was still a card slot. Oh, and it's an instant speed while this was a sorcery. Like, it's bananas the way it's so prevalent, and I guarantee it's because, like, how do you sell cardboard otherwise?
Woo, man. All right, so we are getting to the main topic here because we have gone in a fun roundabout way. There's a ton of exclusive things we're going to throw on Patreon
Monday morning.
Monday energy, baby.
Let's go.
We're cooking.
So we are talking a very interesting topic today, gaming on a budget. I will preface a little bit. I'm really going to hand this over to you guys. I do have some points here, but I think Lord Vader is really going to kind of take the reins on this. But gaming on a budget, look, it's 2024. We're all on a budget. Purse strings are tight. You still want to play games. You still want to have fun. How can we do this realistically without just saying, don't play the game? Like, how can we do this? And this is going to come from a very interesting perspective as people who sell you games. So I'm very excited for this. So I'm hoping we can cover some very interesting points of how to successfully get into games, continue certain games, but fuel your hobby while still not throwing your wallet away. So, Lord Vader, can I kick this off to you?
Yeah, I think I've been gaming on a budget the entirety of my gaming career. And that's including time the store has been open. I've gone a little ham on my budget at times because I had the luxury of knowing, like, whatever, I can always just sell it back to the store or sell it at the store or whatever.
I'll live.
Yeah. But
Ramen exists.
but yeah, no, I've as a civilian, I've been like, oh man, Warhammer looks sweet, but I've got Magic money and that's about it. And I'm going to continue playing Magic because that takes a lot less backpack space, and to me, it was just easier, more accessible. I think there's a lot of aspects to gaming on a budget because it's not. I think one of the most important things that people forget is it's not just budgeting your money, it's budgeting your time.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these games want to be the only thing you play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Warhammer wants to be the only thing you play. You have to build them, you have to paint them, you have to learn your army before you play it.
Yeah.
Like,
and I'm glad you said that, Mike, because I thought I was going crazy because when you invited me on for this topic, the thing that I kept coming back to is like, yeah, there's all these things that I can come up with to do that make the game cheaper. But when I'm on a budget, my time is at a premium.
the time is the biggest premium. When if we're working adults, it's hard to, like, when am I going to get this all done?
Yeah.
And one of the biggest, so with time being a thing, with money being a thing, like for me, the first and main thing I want to put out there, and like my key point in this is, guys, all of your old stuff still has value, and recycling is real, especially in this industry. A game system that you may no longer be playing because you don't have the time for it, it is not your favorite game system, is still gold to somebody else. I have a complete Rebel fleet for Armada that I'm in the midst of selling because I need my own money to game in BattleTech. I'm going to sell out of a game that I don't have the time, I don't have the play base, like I don't have friends to play. It's me and Michael who don't have the time together to play a game of Armada. That's who I would be playing with. So you know what? I'm going to make the decision. I'm going to cut this game system out because I'm not playing it right now and I want to play other things. Cool. This goes. You can trade into now, somebody was mentioning a lot of stores don't do trade-ins. So
we talked about this.
You know, like, I'm sorry for you and I'm sorry for that store. And I think you and that store should have a conversation about, hey man, the internet is real and vast. And there's, again, money to be made by getting the right thing in front of somebody's eyes. Mm-hmm. And even if you're not playing a game system, guys, for the sake of our store, let's bring it back down to at Funk, we want all of your old cool that you are not playing with. I don't care if it's game systems, collectibles, whatever. If it's in good condition and it's old and it's cool, I'm interested. And that's an easy way to game on a budget is just trade in the stuff that you're not using anymore. Like, I really do. We want all of your old gaming. We're not necessarily going to give you $1 billion on all your old gaming stuff, but if we give you $25 in trade credit, isn't that better than something sitting in a closet taking up space and collecting dust?
Yeah.
You know?
So let's hit the bullet point hard here. Trade is, I think, the number one bullet point right here.
Easy
Trade.
way to keep in any game system. Oh, I'm playing this right now. My store isn't playing that much anymore, but my store still has an audience for it. Let me see if the store is interested in trading out of this for something else that I can play that I do want to play right now. For me, I've effectively been trading most of my stuff towards BattleTech lately.
Yeah.
I've traded out of all of Armada. I've traded earlier in the year, I got rid of all of my X-Wing, which we hadn't played in 3 years. So I definitely lingered on that too long. I've got a Wild West Exodus, two, three posses of that. Great game system, great models, nobody to play it with. I don't have enough of a play group. I loved that game. It was really fun. I can't just keep playing the same 2-3 people over and over with no new content coming in.
Yeah.
You know, so like, cool, we got to get out of that. Pretty much just for BattleTech. Like, I don't know. I again, from the top down, everybody in this industry is on some kind of budget of time and or money or both. A lot of us, by the nature of what draws us to this industry, there's a collectability factor going on. You can really easily never come out of pocket in a way that hurts your feelings if you're willing to get rid of some of that old cool that you don't have either shelf space, time space, or you know what? I'd rather use this as part of my budget for the new cool. I think there's always a lot of recycling to be done in this industry that, please, I invite you, bring us your cool stuff. We don't do a lot of Star Trek here. I would love for somebody to just bring me some random, here's a Star Trek collection of like all the stuff that you didn't know existed. We'll find some kind of value. We'll try, like, we want to find you toys and games for your cool stuff. And I think a lot of stores out there feel the same. And I think it's a very easy way to both stay current in like, hey, I don't want to be shelling out of pocket for whatever new cool stuff's coming out. And I also think it's a good way to, you know, if you're going to take stuff to Goodwill or you're going to take it to Bookman's, like, hey, why don't you at least swing by and see if maybe we're interested? Because you probably have some old cool, I got a bunch of old Star Trek novels. I'd put that on our shelves.
Yeah.
You know, like, so please, old board games, we sell pre-owned board games. Please bring them through. We'd love to trade. So that's where again, mine is definitely from an angle of, hey, I'm in a business of this, so I want your stuff. But again, from a gaming perspective, I am trading my stuff to be able to afford to have Sammy paint the stuff that I don't have time to paint myself because I only have the budget to play the game. I have a little bit of money and a lot of stuff to trade in towards I want my time in the industry, like at the tables, to be playing the games. That equals I got to give my time of painting it. I got to get that handled at the cost of some of my money. But I'm working all these angles. I'm not like Captain Deep Pockets over here. I'm just hooking up friends in a way where Sammy's got some money to put towards his hobby. So please, please, please think outside the box. And like, I'm sure you have a friend that likes painting more than you do.
Well, that's what I want to get to and within the trade is a trade of services.
Yeah.
So listen, we're not going to give you the golden BB answer of like, just do this and then you can afford everything. That's not going to be the case. But trading services, Russell's a great example.
Yep.
I will say myself as well. Like, if you can paint or even just build, Melissa, a friend of ours who plays Magic here, she wants to play Age of Sigmar. She likes painting. She does not like building.
I like building. I hate painting.
Exactly. I guarantee within your friend group or play group or just at the shop, there's going to be somebody who can paint really well, who can build really well, because yes, that is a skill, cleaning mold lines, getting everything flush, all that. You can trade those services. Hey, you've got that old combat patrol. I want that. I don't have any money, but I can build this stuff for you. Great. Let's work towards a trade.
Yep.
Hey, you've got mechs. You want them painted? Cool. I will totally paint these for you. Will you
get me into the game?
Get me into the game.
Yeah.
there's so many opportunities to trade services in a fun, creative way, do what you're good at, and be able to like win in this scenario. So trade is such a big one. I'm going to pass it to you guys within the trade idea, and then we can keep kind of going down the rabbit hole of other bullet points. What else you got?
My experience with that was like, it really highlighted to me when I got into Star Wars Unlimited, because I'll give you just a very brief background to explain why this was so important in that game's context. Was there's no stock.
Yeah.
You could not get into the game because you could not buy the cards.
Right.
But I came down to Funk, got a demo game. Somebody showed me the ropes with just the starter decks, which was great. And I was like, man, this game is sweet. The mechanics are nice. The flavor is all there. Like, it feels good even when you're losing, which is such a win for a game.
Right.
Sure wish I could play this. Was the problem. But what was cool was I sort of tapped in with this community, the people who were playing the game, who had gotten a lot of stock. And big shout outs to Chris, who was just like, anytime there was a common, uncommon from the first set that I was like, I'm looking for this thing, I don't know, like it would kind of help me out, just would show up the next time that we were all in playing. Like he would just
with the card
quietly put it in front of me.
Wow.
And like, that was the only way that I was, and I wasn't making like good decks, but I was in there.
Yep.
And I got to play and I got to have my fun. I got to cook my little drafts up because I tapped in with the community. And I think that's like very much kind of at the heart of this trade idea, is just like you were saying, Mike, having people to play with is such a difference maker. And I think when you've been in it for as long as some of us have, you start to just be like, yeah, I'm just gonna give this to this guy.
Honestly, I would rather have somebody in the game to be playing against the table for me. That's worth it. Like legitimately, I know you're actually going to paint up some mechs and you're going to come learn Alpha Strike with us. I'm happy to get a friend into a game that I get to play. You know, like, and I think there's a lot of people out there that feel, again, this is all about budgeting. Some people out there have even deeper pockets than anybody we know and have a lot less time, but they also want the play experience. They also want to play with painted, pretty models. If you're somebody who can paint, I'm sure you can get talking to somebody who has, you could probably put something on the Discord right now. Hey, I'm just putting it out there. I can paint. I want to play more games. I don't have a huge budget. I'm willing to paint some stuff for you if you'll get me into the game. If I was actually paying attention to the Discord, I would probably reach out. I just don't do that stuff, okay? But for real, like offer yourself out there. Some people just want like the time. You 3 hours at the table with me at a certain time, as an adult, that's invaluable. That's like, wow, I actually got somebody to show up on time. That's rad. And I think there's probably people out there willing to, hey, if you just want to learn, I know there's people out there because I'm willing to. If you just want to learn a game, I'll bring all my shit, I'll set it all up. Just come at this stated time and I'll teach you the game we can play. And then we'll go from there. If you actually want stuff, we'll get you in. I think everybody knows somebody like that. If you reach out on the Discord, you'd find somebody that's just like ready to champion a game and be ready. Like, no, I want to get you in so much that you can play with my stuff.
Dude, you know what?
Let him in. Let Russell in, yeah. Russell just showed up because he's dropping off some more terrain, I believe, is what he's bringing me. And
he's going to be so excited when he listens to this episode and finds out we've been glazing him the whole time.
I don't remember what he's...
Russell.
Like, I don't even worry about what he's bringing me. I'm just like, yeah, please come through. Yep. I know you're going to we're going to wheel and deal. It's going to be worthwhile. You're going to show me something pretty or offer to paint something pretty. And I'm going to be like, yeah, I trust you. Make it good.
Okay, so this is very impromptu and weird, but Russell, who we keep mentioning on this episode, is chilling in his car waiting for us to open up. So I'm gonna pass this off to him real quick. Russell, we're talking about gaming on a budget. We're talking about trade specifically right now, and we were talking about trading services for gaming goods and stuff. Okay. You're kind of the champion in this. Like, can you give us a brief bit of your experience and what it's like as a commissioned painter just wheeling and dealing. Any advice you have to listeners of, hey, you can do this on a budget. You're the man. I'm just going to pass this over to you.
Thank you. I really appreciate the little intro there. We certainly do a little bit of wheeling and dealing here at the beautiful Funkatronic Rex.
Ooh, thanks.
Which, again, if you've never been, please check it out. And if you have, come again. We love you. On a budget, man, that's the name of the game when it comes to a lot of people I know when they're wargaming, and that's the way to go. What you want to do is look at more than just the first options you see. When you're first introduced to certain things, you're going to have a lot thrown at you, and it may be intimidating. But the first thing you need to know is that at the end of the day, what you want are some nice models for a price you can afford. Don't go in too deep if you say have a light starter budget. But more specifically, like you guys were asking, you were talking about trading services and whatnot. If you have certain skills, and they may not even be relative to or related to miniature wargaming or other hobbies like such, what you can do is you can try and trade those services. Like let's say you bake or you cook or you're.
Bro, I was just gonna say, Kelsey is currently working on scrapbooks for me for Christmas presents. And I've had another customer also like do stuff like scrapbooking stuff for me. Yes, your skills are valuable in a context that doesn't necessarily equal paycheck.
So try to think outside of the box, because maybe you have a lot more to offer than you may think. The second thing is you're going to need connections. You know, you can't just walk into X store and go, hey, I bake cookies. Can I have some of that product? So, you know,
right, well, I mean,
if you got a little bit of it,
sometimes you
just come in, bring the cookies. The cookies are free the first time. Damn, that was a good cookie. Well, good. I brought some more cookies this time. They're $50.
Mm-hmm. And I got extra butter.
I think part of the thing that's very cool about Funk to me and this like attitude, just you guys having this conversation, is it's after a while of being here, I think you start to get this subconscious sense of whatever I put into this place will come back to me in spades.
Yeah.
And so you never feel like you're wasting your efforts, like bring in cookies and stuff like that. Like there are tons of people here in this community who do that because it just always feels rewarded. Like, and it's not that we're doing this because we're expecting reward. It's just like, there's this comfort in knowing if I give to this community, they will have my back. They for sure got me.
It's certainly Funkatronic Rex is probably the only place that I can think of, even if I had some time to think on it, to where you got certain spots where, oh, maybe I want to bring in something. Maybe I want to bring in some cookies and maybe I'll get something. No, Funk is the type of place that I want to bring my cookies in just to do it. Because I know at the end of the day it's going to, on metaphorical cookies, of course. We're trying to use these delicious metaphorical cookies to foster a beautiful environment. And I think that is one of the main strengths, is finding a good environment full of people who are going to be willing and receptive to what you have to offer.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to think that like whatever, like this concept we're talking about, I'd like to think the possibility at least of it exists at any other game store out there. Okay, I've got to imagine 95% of proper brick and mortar game stores are mom and pop like we are. We're real people. We are real people working retail for not enough money. We do this because like it's not the worst job. I get to play with my friends. I get to see my friends on a regular, like I'm pretty sure even if this community didn't exist at your current game shop, it'd be really easy to just foster it and make it happen. Show up with cookies. Who's gonna say no? Oh, I'm sorry, we don't do cookies here. Then maybe that's not the game shop for you, or maybe you need to convince them, guys, are you sure you don't want to do cookies here? My cookies are delicious. My cookies are freshly baked, and I brought enough to share. Foster that community yourself. And again, like somebody will crawl out of the woodworks. You got cookies? Well, I got plenty of mechs. You can play with mine. Fuck it, your cookies are real good. I've got painted mechs. Sammy made them. They painted them. They're gorgeous. Let's get on the tables. Bring your cookies.
Yeah, I mean, that's the cool thing about like community as a concept, but I think for us, right, it taps into the gaming community element of it. Is just like community is one of the only things in life where you can just feel comfortable that you're going to get more than you give, which is amazing. Like you never get that. And so like, that's why your shop can be a special place, you know, like any shop, like you said, Mike, it's possible at any game shop. The reason that it's different here, I think, is because the mindset starts at the top and you have this attitude towards it as well as the people who are coming in, you know, like there's this, yeah. Who would say no to cookies? You'd be surprised.
I feel like that attitude is missing from a lot of, like you're saying earlier, like that retail environment. You're not going to go into that really expecting it. So when you can, even when you get that first taste, it might just set you off, and you know your eyes might be opened per se. But yeah, if just given. That's the whole reason I've been coming back here all these years. It's more than just a shop with really great people, and it's a whole. It's greater than its parts, and its parts are amazing. You know, it's that
I
ideal.
love it when you talk about my parts like that.
listen, Mike. Listen.
Low hanging fruit.
Russell, thank you for hanging, man. By the way, man, that was just so serendipitous that you were just hanging out there, and we've been chatting about you. So. So pull up a stool if you'd like and hang. Just know that off-axis speaking might not get picked up. So the next thing I would say, the next big bullet point is I'm going to call it going Dutch.
Dylan! You son of a bitch!
You've been pushing too many pencils.
The idea of going Dutch, so 50-50 on a box. I think that's something that is important and probably not talked about a lot because I don't know if it's a pride thing, like, no, I want to be able to buy this and have it all myself. When it comes to the big games that we play, I think it's absolutely possible. I think it's definitely possible on board games too. I don't want to just continuously talk about, and I think we're talking more than just Warhammer, but to touch Warhammer with the Dutch aspect, Leviathan was a great option. Sammy and I split the Leviathan box, and it was exactly what we wanted. You get half, I get half. You take the core rule book, that's fine. We'll do that. So when you can look at Warhammer or BattleTech or any sort of tabletop type war game, is there a starter set that appeals to you and a friend that you're both wanting to get into this? Can you guys split that in a way that makes sense for y'all? Even cracking Warhammer boxes that have just that one fucking mini that they don't sell anywhere else, and I just want that one. Do you want the rest? We'll trade, or you can buy the rest off of me. Fine, let's do that. Board games, I think it is a little bit trickier with board games because there's one distinct owner on it, but you could do something where it's like, yes, we're going to play this together. It's an $80 price tag on a sweet game. Let me pitch in on this or something. Or you know what? If you buy the core, I'll buy the expansion that we really want. I think the sense of cooperative games, especially the card games, work really well for this. Weirdly, we've seen this in store with Lord of the Rings. So Robert has a core set. Robert has one or two of the starter sets. He's only going to start buying Saga expansions. He doesn't really find interest, I think, in the other campaign expansions, but he knows other people have them. And so other people buy those, but they don't really have necessarily the play group we do. So they buy them, bring them here, and then they all play together. It's very interesting. So the notion of, we did this with my fellowship with Jared, Gianni, and Andrew, was I had most of the card base, but we were missing a few sets, and for certain specific decks that these guys needed, they bought that stuff. I had the majority of everything, but they bought everything else that we needed to play in order to finish the campaigns. So there is a sense of going Dutch on certain things. I think another one of those is paint. paint seems like a very obvious and not obvious thing that you can split somewhat. Like, I only need this color for this one little couple pieces on a guy.
I
Take the rest.
I use paint as sweeteners on deals.
Yeah.
I use paint constantly as like, okay, I know I got what I wanted out of this trade, but I still want you to walk away from the table feeling better about it. So like, hey, you know what? I've got a pot of like 3/4 full non-oil. I got some Agrax. Like, if it's open and I haven't painted for 3 months, to me, that is trade fodder as much as it's reusable paint, because like, why do we want to spend another $5 on a new pot? Bro, there's plenty of yellow left, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, you should constantly be, you finish the army? Cool. That's a half a pot that you can trade with somebody else if you got bros that paint.
Yeah.
I think there's like a mental barrier on paint too. Like, you're right. It's an obvious but not obvious. And I think it's because the gaming part happens in the public venue. The painting part happens at my house,
behind closed doors.
in my desk. And so in my head, there's like this solitary versus communal split between those two aspects of the hobby. There doesn't have to be, you know, like you guys have thrown some like painting days and things like that, that may turn it into kind of more of a communal element too. But we spend so much time, particularly with that part of the hobby, solitary. Right. So you kind of don't think about like, how can I connect with this in a community way?
But if you can do it, if you can do it to where it's an incentive. So when Michael and I were playing Warhammer Invasion, there was a box that he really wanted to play Lizardmen. I didn't have the Lizardmen box, but he had every other card that I was giving him, like, yes, you could build this deck. So we split. We went half in on an expansion. I didn't care to play the Lizardmen. I wanted to play all the cool vampire stuff, and it fucking worked. But it can be also weirdly selfishly incentive to like my buddy Grant right now, who's just came back into my life, is fantastic. Like, he's talking about like, he buys people their first little hit of the game where it's like, look, I'm willing to buy you the starter. You're going to get everything else, but like, now you're playing with me.
Yep.
So there is a fun little trade aspect there of like, yeah, look, here's Alpha Strike. I see that Lord Vader gave you the Alpha Strike box.
Vader has dropped an Alpha Strike box on my lap.
Yeah.
No ulterior motives there.
None whatsoever.
I don't like to play this game. What are you talking about?
Yeah. But you can ask that too. Like, hey man, I know you really want me to play this. Like, I just don't have the time. I don't have the money right now. Maybe time, but like, what do you have that I could use? Like, what do you have that I could play with? Does that make sense? Russell, you got something?
And another thing is a great place to look. If you're having a hard time getting in, but you know some people who really enjoy the game or are very, you want passion. You want to find someone who's very passionate. Because if you can find someone who's passionate about something and you want to join that passion, they will go to the ends of the earth to help you to get to that passion. So if you have that kind of group, like we've been talking about, fostering groups, if you can find something, or even if these are people that you don't know, you got to look. Because if you can find that, they will help you. They will. Mm-hmm. And it will all come around into this beautiful circle. Because maybe you end up falling in love with the game and it just propagates further.
Yeah, I just, to me, again, going to the notion of like communal spending, if you will, on any game, I am not a rules guy. I will not read the rule book. I do not want to read the rule book. If I don't already know the rules, somebody else is teaching us. But I am the guy that's willing to pay the premium for not having to read the rule book. So like you just said, like, yeah, that's an easy move for me. I'm happy to drop this on you if it equals I get to play the game.
Yeah.
Like your friend Grant. Like that's a fair... Paul, you're teaching us Arkham. Here, take this. I think I bought at least 5-6 expansions for Arkham Horror when we were playing that. I don't own any of that. Paul has all of it.
Yeah.
But he ran it for us for 2.5 years. So like, yeah, bro, please. Yeah, you make the decks. I don't want to build. I just want to sit down and play. And you're going to remind me every time I ask the dumb question, like, how do I do this?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a clever move that Mike has made because whether he knows this or not, I am a rule book guy. I will just commit every aspect of this thing to memory to the best of my ability, and then all of a sudden you've got another rule book guy.
I'm good with that. See, I like that.
So one of the other major things that I think is budget focused is format. When we look at 40K, when we look at Battletech, when we look at Magic, when we look at any sort of bigger IP as far as something that's continual gaming, is we look at it like with 40K or Age of Sigmar, whatever it is, it's 2K or bust. You have to play a 2K army. You don't. You fucking don't. You can play 1,000-point army and it would be great. You can play Combat Patrol and it would be great. You could play there, or as Russell is going to say, I know you're over my shoulder, you could also play a different game called
Age of Sigmar. No, one-page rules. If you're on an extreme budget and you want to get into a war game about as free as you can get, check out one-page rules. All the rules are free. They got paper armies, I'm pretty sure, for free. Check it out.
He's the champion of it, too. And that's true. I think the formatting is different. So you want to play Magic, but you don't have a ton of money? Build a Pauper deck. Michael, do you want to touch on just what Pauper is and just kind of define that for listeners who might not know?
So Pauper specifically, at least in the Magic terms, is you build a complete deck. So if it's Commander, 100 cards, 60 cards, but it's only commons.
Yeah.
Which are nickels and dimes, if that, for the most part.
And within that, we've had friends go, "Hey guys, we're gonna do a fun pod, but there's a $50 limit. Like cap and build to that." And that puts everybody on an even playing field. Like, because to Alex's credit, he has a great catchphrase, spend money, get good. And that does pertain to Magic. But if you cap and go, hey guys, we're going to play a format that's just draft. Hey guys, we're going to play a format that's just Pauper, that's just precons, that's just $50.
I like
format.
your 2-box Crisis Protocol.
Yes,
Stuff like that is really
cool.
is just a really cool way of approach it. And I think that's a great thing for the manufacturer to do.
Call in. You
gotta call in guests.
Live. Wow.
I muted this ringer, but it doesn't mute the other three.
Man, if we do Mondays, we may take calls. It might be fun.
I think that one of the I should hold until.
Oh, is it gonna do all that shit too? Hold on, I think.
Oh boy, I knew it was coming.
I think you do not have to play what they tell you to play. FOMO's a thing with big companies. You must play it this way. You want to play the big, shiny stuff. You don't have to. You can play in more interesting formats.
I think one of the things, like especially with my experience with 40K, really colored my impression on this, because I think it's kind of easy to get up to, like, or at least it was kind of easy to get up to like 1,500 points. And then you would hit a point where, all right, what the hell do I do to fill out this last 500? And they're
always
like,
expensive.
yeah, and it's like my thing was in a lot of cases I'd already bought 2 big bundle boxes or something like that. And like that's in any hobby where you're spending effectively, well, it's like close to $300, more than that. That's a big investment.
It's a big enough investment. Yeah, you want to be done.
And so you're like, I'm good for a while. I just don't think I can, like, how can I look at my fiance and be like, I just need to spend $150 more, babe, I promise. Just I know we haven't gone on a date, but like, you just can't do that. And so what I did is, like, genuinely for the first like 2 years that I was playing 40K, I was just the 1,500 guy. Like, I was coming in here and I was playing 1,500 points because it's what I had, and I wasn't interested in buying more. To your credit, right? Like, 2K is great. I love that I can play 2K now to the extent that I do, but like, it's not really an inherently better format. No. And so it's just like, play with the amount of stuff you have and you're good. Like, feel no pressure to get up to the limit. No. I know there's like a lot of nerd pride in getting to the stage where you're like, I have 10,000 points of my chosen art. Feel no rush. No. If you're new, if you're getting into it, it's fine.
Because to be honest, I've got buckets of gray plastic that is 3,000, 4,000 points. I'm not using half that shit.
Yeah.
You know, Russell, you got something?
I was just gonna say it's a little more different for games like card games, but for things like Warhammer or other miniature games, if you don't even want to play, you could just have beautiful miniatures. You could get yourself a nice hobby. And maybe you fall in love with playing the game, or just the opposite. You fall out of love with playing the game, but you still love the miniatures. There's a lot of angles you can take towards it. And a little bit previously when we were talking about Pauper, for example, if you put on, and you can do this for other games, if you put on a budget, it could completely warp the game in a really great way. That, one, makes it a lot more even for all players, and two, makes it a lot more accessible for all players. Because if no one's playing the same $10 whatevers that, you know, are in 3/4 of all decks, then you're going to get a lot more of a sample size, of a lot greater of an experience, in my opinion. But so those types of things. You know?
Format doesn't even have to be the only limiting factor. I think you mentioning the card game is relevant, because card game can be a little bit funky sometimes, but one of the things that you can do that's always an option is, like, there are some tight budget decks in every game that can get you in and competitive with most tables for like $30. You know, like not a lot of it's not going to be the fanciest deck in the world, but like you're going to pop in there and you're going to play your cheap little aggro deck that works just fine. The vast majority of people playing games are not so good at the game that they are even capable of piloting their high-level tournament deck.
Right.
It's just the reality of the situation, right? The skill distribution works that way. And so if you're really good at your budget deck, you can win. I think people do have this attitude of like, and it's the running joke, and it's not necessarily wrong about the spend money, get good, but like, get good, you know?
Yeah. Money helps.
Learn your cards, and you're at a bigger advantage than a lot of people will be in the game.
Yeah.
To that point, and to something that I've said many times, don't net deck and look for the perfect cards for the perfect deck that you're building. You're just going to cost yourself a lot of money and build a deck that somebody else designed, that they knew how to steer. Instead, play with what's in front of you, build that deck up over time. As you crack packs, as you get cards traded to you, that's when you upgrade and make that deck better. Every deck doesn't have to be baller right out the gates. I think that's a real common misconception that like, no, my deck's got to be ready to win on turn 3 the first time I put it on the table. How the fuck is that fun for anybody?
Right.
Like, you never even went through the stages of making that deck. That deck never earned its win. That just came out you copied a list online and shit on me with somebody else's ideas. Like, if you have to actively go out and hunt down cards to make your deck that much better, I feel like you're somehow like I don't know. To me, a deck shouldn't be optimized right out the gates. It should have some play on it. Oh, look, I figured out this card sucks in it. It's a non-bow with something else. You know, like, that's me.
I think this is actually a mistake that a lot of new 40K players make. And like a lot of new 40K OS, this is a very common issue. I made this mistake, is that competitive lists exist in a competitive world. And I would go through and look at all of these tournament lists, and there would be things in it that I didn't understand, but I was like, well, this is how people tell you to get good, is net deck the best options. And so I would go in and I would play this tournament list, and I would suck at it because I did not understand the elements and how they worked together. And so a lot of times when like a tournament player is playing this random unit for whatever reason, it's not even for its archetype or anything like that. It's not because like I'm not playing flayed ones because I want flayed ones to charge in and do melee for my Necron armies, because they're dirt cheap and I can put them wherever I want to and stuff like that. So the things that they do with those units are not obvious from the list building necessarily. And if you just play with the stuff you have and gain that familiarity. I'm so serious when I say that, like, people spend too much thinking that it will improve the play experience when the reality is you're messing up.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But, like, you should be aware that if you use your pieces better, you're going to have more success than if you just pick out this random person's hyper optimized list that you don't even understand the philosophy behind. Like, that's a thing that you see happen all the time.
Yeah.
And if you learn to get good, even with, let's say you buy a starter box and you have these 5 units, and these are the 5 units that you're going to have for a while, so you're not planning on spending more. If you learn to get good or learn to enjoy those units, 1, it's going to improve your play, and 2, it's going to make you appreciate your own models a lot more. You know, granted that GW is not just like, you know, crapping all over them, but that's not here nor there.
So I this kind of points to one of the things that I had on my list that I wanted to bring up.
Please.
I think it falls kind of under the same category, is like, it's really good to have a plan when you are buying boxes, because not every box is created equal.
True.
Not every box, like, especially nowadays, low key, my biggest criticism of GW, I'm not the biggest GW hater or anything like that. The biggest problem that I think the game has right now is that a lot of the starter boxes, like the entry points for different armies, are not good entry points for
they're not.
the
Yeah.
armies.
Yeah.
Tau is my favorite army in this game. I literally cannot recommend anyone get into Tau right now because it's expensive as hell, and the bundle box for it is not good.
The combat patrol you're saying?
It's just it's fine,
It's a
but it's like
devilfish and like infantry.
devilfish, breachers, fireblade. No, it's
No, it
not
doesn't
the.
have the ghost
it's
kill.
not the
It's a
ghost kill
commander.
anymore.
It's
It's
a
the
commander.
commander.
Oh, that's right.
Which is
Yeah, yeah,
okay,
yeah,
but it's not great.
So, like, let
Yeah.
me take you back a little, just a step back to when it was the start collecting box.
It had the 3
start collecting
XV8s.
it says 3 crisis suits.
Yep.
It had an ethereal,
Yeah.
and it had a group of infantry.
Two didn't it have 2 squads of infantry, or was it just one?
I think it's just one.
Just one squad of infantry.
And that's not a great box, but it was
the
like
XV8s
it was
made
like
it
$100
playable. Yeah.
compared to 160. And you know what? You know how I got into that army is I bought 3 of those suckers,
and you're good.
and I was good to go.
Yeah.
I could play that army.
Yeah.
And so, like,
That's fair.
what GW does well with starter boxes is, like, I think Leviathan is a great starter box. I think Indomitus from last edition was
hell
a
yeah.
great starter box. Oh my God, you want to play Necrons? You're good, buddy.
It's funny,
all of these
trading,
are $25 on
I
eBay.
traded a ton of stuff for your Indomitus half, I think. I got your Necrons.
Is that true? No,
think
because
I-
I don't play Space Marines.
I got
that's true.
Jason's. I got somebody else's Indomitus box, and that's how I started my Necron army. Was I like
Yeah.
commission painted or traded, and they got
So,
that one. Yeah.
If you're really, like, really intent on, I want to get into 40K, and I want to get to 2,000 points, not too fussed about the army that I'm playing, and I don't want to break the bank. Though that's you in this situation. You're playing a starter box army, baby. Like, it is far and away going to be cheaper than any other option in the game.
Other than maybe buying used on eBay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's sort of like situational. It's not like I can blanket
you can't just
recommend
choose
it.
exactly what you want there. That's like you're getting luck of the draw of how badly painted somebody else's pro paint was.
But, like, dude, if you're interested in NIDS,
Yeah.
never
Starter
been a
box
better
was
time to get into
bananas
NIDS.
good. That was the best. Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, you should keep that stuff in mind, right? Like, the reason that Necrons was my first army, my first love. God, I love Necrons. So cool. Wasn't in my top 3 when I thought I was going to get into 40K. But you know what? That starter box was pretty tight. And so now it's my second favorite army in the whole game. I straight up would not have started playing Tau if it was not for that old start collecting box, because right before it was going out of print, it was like $75 on eBay.
Nice.
Oh my God. To get that kind of core for an army for that price
That
in
cheap.
40K.
Just the
is
XV8s are
nuts.
$75. I
Yeah.
think now they're up to like 90 for a box of 3 XV8 should be like $85.90.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's nuts. And you were talking a little bit about like proxying.
Yeah.
One story that I want to share is that like the first time I proxied something, like I 3D printed these models. I thought they were sweet. They were proxies for broadsides.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, the reason I proxied broadsides is because a box of broadsides is not a box of broadsides.
It's one.
It's a broadside.
$75.
It was $60 at the time before
Sure.
tax. You would run them in units of 3.
Yep.
And they are, for 3 of them, it would be 180 points.
Yep.
So that is,
And
keeping in mind for those
$180.
not into the game,
$1 per point.
right? $1 per point. You're running 2,000 points. This is less than a tenth of
Yep.
your army. And I was like sweating and nervous because I was still kind of new. I didn't know Mike that well at the time. And I was like, I had a game and I brought mine in. And I was like, oh man, is this going to be an issue? And Mike comes over and he looks and he sees my broadsides and he goes, man, those look sweet.
I'm all about conversions. I follow for me, the proxy rules on GW is if it's GW plastic, it's good to go.
Yeah.
If it's on the right size base and it's GW plastic, you want to call that or whatever, it's on the right size base and it's the appropriate company. I know those aren't necessarily the same as everybody else's rules, but somewhere in the game there's like modeling to advantage is mentioned somewhere in the rule book.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
So like as long as you're not modeling to advantage and making that whole Pathfinder squad kneeling, I don't care if they're different alien races. They should be. That's funny.
So that, if I can piggyback off that, brings me to the idea of, and maybe we're talking about it, there's a few things here, DIY. Converting or kit bashing what you don't have from what you got.
I'm good with that all day
You do
long.
that all day, and I fucking love it. I'm talking about the idea right now is a little bit of like do I really want to commit to this, the thing of redoing my Tyranid army, trading in what I've got, and just doing a bunch of Eldritch Horror tentacle things. And I have a bunch of those bits, and I have some really cool Soulblight models, and just going, you know what? I don't want to spend what it is to get this model, XYZ model for Tyranids, but I can kit bash the fuck out of it and make it something cool. Can you use bits and a decent amount of what you've got to create that Space Marine, to create that mech, to create that tank that you don't have? Can you build it? And the other thing being, just to be fast on the DIY point, is terrain. GW's terrain is expensive. Yes, you have to buy a lot of it to fill out a table. They literally don't have a table kit. You have to buy multiple boxes. Do it yourself. Use a Pringle can. Use that Alpha Strike box as like a hill. Like start it out with basic stuff. Spray paint some styrofoam. Spray paint some cardboard, some Tupperware, whatever it is. Try that first. Do that way. You know, it's fun.
Frankly, just recapture the naive delight of your youth and put that goddamn tissue box on the table.
Yeah.
That's a building now. I do want to like get in on this DIY point a little bit because I know that there are some people who just like having the official model. I get that. I know that there are some people who just don't want to spend the time. Like modeling is already enough time, things like that. But seriously, just spending a little bit of time on reconfiguring this thing to be something else gets you, like, one, you don't have to buy a new box, which is
Agreed.
tight.
Yeah.
But second, like, there's crazy personality to that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And like, I think the reason when I look back on why did I even get into miniature war games, it's because I wanted to feel like I had a personal connection to my models. That's the reality of it. Like, you can play a strategy game online. We get into this because the models are cool. I want to have this neat little configuration of things that I made. So like, I remember I bought the Indominus box. I don't play Space Marines. I lost interest very quickly, but I do play Space Marines in Kill Team. And I grabbed a bunch of things, and I was like, I had these Assault Intercessor kits laying around, and I made them regular Intercessors because I had the stuff to do that, and I wanted to play the Intercessors Kill Team with a bunch of shooty Space Marines, and that was fine. And you know what? It cost me dirt.
Right.
Because I just had the stuff around. I've got extra Eldar Guardians laying around. Those guys might become Rangers.
Yeah.
And this is a thing that I think is a bottleneck for a lot of people. People are really nervous about custom sculpting. And I don't think you have to be. Like, get some green stuff, play around with it. It is way easier than I ever thought it was going to be. And now, like, I put capes on everything, bro. Everything. Like, you can really do a lot with not a lot of effort. And I want to be sensitive to, like Mike was saying, in my life, time is at a premium as much as money is. But it does not take as long as you think it will.
Yeah.
And you can do these things, and it's not going to be this whole time commitment. Like, even if it's kind of bad, isn't that kind of fun?
Yeah.
Like, isn't there a little bit of joy to, like, your guy just not being quite right? Yeah. And, like, learning that from that experience?
The last thing I want to touch upon, and then I'm going to give it just kind of an open table real quickly to see if there's stuff that you guys want to bring in, because we have to open the store in a half hour, is testing. I'm looking at a sign right now on our game library that says try before you buy. And I think that is something that is somewhat unique to us, that we have a game library available that you can come in, play a game, and if you like it, hey, you know what? Buy it, invest into it. There are gaming cafes that are around here. Snakes and Lattes is one. They have a wall of games that you go in, you pay a few bucks to rent a table, and you can try it out. Is there another one?
Silver Key Lounge.
Silver Key Lounge.
Are they in Chandler?
They're in Chandler.
They have a huge
Mega
wall, like 400 plus games.
You go in, you pay a little bit, you play a game. If you like it, great. Because to touch on the board gaming side, Kickstarters are great. They're still expensive. And you are going to wait for 3 fucking years till you get your shit. You know by experience. Big box games are expensive. Dune looks cool as hell. It can be pricey. Another thing you can do testing out-wise, if your local game store does not have a game library, go on Facebook, go on Instagram, go on whatever. We talked about this with trades. Hey, guys, I'm looking to play XYZ game. Does anybody have it? Here's the thing. That's an excuse for that person to play that game.
Or a game guy is slobbering at the mouth, crawling over the table. You want to play?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, hey, guys, I would love to play Cyberpunk. Does anybody have it? Boom. There's an excuse for that person to host a game and play it. If you like it, great. Go buy it. Because that is a good way to test. And also, you're making friends, possibly. You're learning the game. You're making connections. And you've just traded some time to see whether it's a good investment for you to buy into this game or not. Like Aliens. I want that game. I want to play it with you first.
It's rad.
I want it just almost regardless, but I would love to try it and play it with you first. And then I'm going to buy it. Because it's fucking Aliens. So, testing stuff out. Yeah. So, gentlemen, is there anything else that we'd like to hit upon for gaming on a budget? Russell, yeah?
Just keep your eyes open. Just look for opportunities in places you may not expect, and bring your own abilities that you may not initially anticipate maybe as wanted, but you'd be surprised. You have a lot to offer, and you don't know that.
That's life advice right there, man. Hell yeah. Thank you. Michael?
Nope. They're
cool.
Making the connections of me while gaming on budget, everything was pretty much hit spot on where I'm at. If anything, I am the guy who I prefer to just have the original model. I don't like kit bashing or stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the closest thing it'd become to is I could swap a shoulder pad. Ultramarine symbol, I'll put that on it so I don't have to do the transfer. But other than that, at least me personally, I just prefer to have the actual model. But that's me,
you also don't prefer to have the new shiny stuff. Like, you like old school sculpts as well of Seraphon.
Yes.
So you're not FOMOing at the mouth kind of to get the new thing.
I do as well, but I appreciate
FOMOing at the mouth.
Kind of like how Garrett touched. I'd like to, this is a for like Warhammer specifically, is a very expensive hobby and whatnot. So I try to find I deep dive into the lore. The other day, an old Marneus Calgar like metal sculpt was brought in. It's like, dude, it's Marneus Calgar. It's my guy. I have to have this. So like I appreciate the everything of the hobby. If it's Ultramarines related, honestly, if it has an Ultramarine symbol somewhere on it, I'm probably gonna end up taking it because it's Ultramarine.
Yeah, I last year for Christmas, I bought you that sweater. That's the Ultramarine sweater. Season's coming up soon,
The
baby. Let's get
Gilliman
you a
one,
picture.
Garrett, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for taking the time.
It was a pleasure, guys.
I appreciate it. Yeah. I'm stoked to get you into Alpha Strike.
He's got me.
You got
Russell,
Max.
thanks for showing up too, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate you.
Ross, thanks for joining.
Dude,
Michael,
we had
Michael, welcome back, man.
Oh,
Glad
yes,
you're here.
thank you.
Yeah. You've been very busy, so thank you for your time.
I was gonna say it was interesting. We had breaking news into surprise cameo into.
It's more eventful than
Got it.
usual.
Yeah, Lord Vader. Thank you.
Dracula, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for hosting us today.
Yes. Cool. Well, thank you to all of our listeners. Thank you to our patrons on Patreon. Guys, please, if you like what we do here and you want to support us, please just consider joining us on Patreon. And even for $5 a month, it really helps out the show. We really appreciate it. We are going to close this down so that we can open up the shop. So thank you guys for listening, and we really appreciate you. We will catch you on the next one. Cheers.
Boom.
Join us on Patreon. I'll give you a big old kiss.
Thank you for listening to the Funkatronic Rex podcast. You can find more of the funk at funkatronicrex.com, Facebook, Instagram, and Discord. If you'd like to support us and the shop, please join us on Patreon by becoming a patron of the funk. If you're in the Phoenix area, please swing by. Come check us out. We would love to meet you and get a game in. You can also reach us by sending an email to shop@funkatronicrex.com. Stay up, stay true, and don't forget, stay funky. Halloween is upon us. I love it so much. I love it.